When my M45 daughter F13 was born, I immediately felt that something was obviously amiss. She was blonde-haired and blue-eyed, which was extremely unlikely for a child of myself and my ex-wife F39. I am very Mediterranean, and I have olive skin, dark eyes, and dark hair. My ex-wife has brown eyes and relatively dark brown hair. Her skin is barely lighter than mine. The baby also clearly bore no resemblance to me or anyone in my family at all. I had been having misgivings about my ex, too, and she seemed too quick to express surprise and make excuses. Still though, I didn't want to throw away my marriage over what could have been my own misunderstanding of genetics, and so I signed the birth certificate. I instantly knew that I was going to have a paternity test done, but something else surprised me. When I brought our little girl home, I still fell in love with her. It felt just like bringing my son M14 home, and, looking at her, I still just saw her as an innocent, beautiful little baby. We bonded. The paternity test came back negative, as I suspected it would, and I decided that our marriage was over. I still loved our little girl though. My then wife did everything that she could to drag out the divorce and refused to separate or move out. My daughter's biological father, every bit as blonde and blue-eyed as I suspected, turned out to want nothing to do with her or my ex. He was already married with his own family, and his only focus was preventing the situation from blowing back on himself too much. My ex went totally nuts when both I and her affair partner rejected her, and she made some very unfortunate decisions. To make a long story short, she ended up with prison time for crimes including identity theft, assault with a deadly weapon, and grand theft auto, when she stole credit cards and forged documents for both of us, and when she stole her affair partner's car and tried to run him over with it. I ended up with custody of our kids, with the affair partner never even attempting to establish any kind of paternity rights. I didn't want to press the issue myself, as I couldn't deny that I had bonded with this child, even knowing that she wasn't my real daughter. I had been shunning my ex-wife as best I could and trying to move on with life after she was finally out of the house. It wasn't long before I got together with and married my current wife F34, and we've since had another 2 children. M10, F8, my eldest daughter is a total daddy's girl, and we have a wonderful relationship. She always feels loved, and I treat her the same as my other kids. Even though she obviously stands out, my family accepts her too, or at least that's what I thought. I work for my father's company, and the other day we were out talking about the future and his will, and he was talking about what money/assets etc. he wanted to leave to whom, including his grandchildren, and I noticed that my older daughter had been left out. I mentioned it to him, and he said, "It's nice what you've done for daughter's name, but you have real children, and obviously they should come first." I interrupted him, and I told him that she is my real daughter, and that I thought she should be treated equally. He just paused and looked at me for a moment, and he said, "I guess you feel how you feel," before he noticed I was still about to argue with him, and he shrugged and moved the conversation on to things about work and my siblings. I was too polite to try to force the matter at the time, but it sort of stuck with me. My father isn't the type of man to harp on a point, and I am certain that he's content to have said his piece and would let the matter drop. He could certainly tell that what he said upset me, and so I doubt he'd bring it up again. Frankly, he sort of raised me the same way. At the time, I was shocked. Beck, Ozzy's always seemed to accept my daughter as a part of the family. He buys her gifts for her birthday and for Christmas, and he makes her feel welcome, but, thinking about it, he really is just a kind, polite, and generous man in a lot of ways. He will and has bought Christmas gifts for high school friends or significant others, if he knew they were coming, and the same for other gift-giving occasions. He's generally very hospitable to anyone his friends or family bring around, so I thought that maybe it was just that, and I misinterpreted. My wife is Asian, and so my eldest daughter always stands out. She's thin, and blonde, and blue-eyed, unlike pretty much anyone else in my family, and she's taller than any of the other girls or even most of the women, really, so I'm aware that she might look like the neighbor kid visiting or something. My wife loves her, and I know that she 100% accepts her as one of our kids, and she has been a great mom, stepmom. I talk to my own mother, though, and while she's definitely closer to my daughter than my father is, they interact a lot more, and she includes my daughter with the other kids, other girls in family traditions and activities. I got a little bit of the same vibe from her. She was much more diplomatic, but it seems like she may also sort of consider my daughter to be sort of a guest, unfortunate orphan I'm hosting or something like that. She pointed out that I can make my own will however I want. My daughter knows that she isn't biologically mine. That would have been hard to hide, even if we'd really had the opportunity. She doesn't want anything to do with either of her bio parents though. She's seen her bio dad perhaps a handful of times in her entire life, and I don't even think he can remember her middle name. He seems to have pretty successfully kept his family together and his wife from leaving him, but he definitely doesn't want any involvement. My ex-wife continued to spiral for a long while, and she lives in another state with another man and her own new family at this point. She mercifully rarely makes contact. I've never really tried to go after either of them for money. I don't need it, and it's not a pot I want to stir. My siblings are mostly supportive if a little bit mixed on the issue. Some of them say that they could never raise the child of a partner's affair, but all of them say that they love and accept their niece. I just can't get over the way that I feel distant and upset about what my father said though. He's an extremely kind and generous man, and he's always taken care of his family. He's given me opportunities and a lifestyle that I could never have achieved without him. I love him and I look up to him. Maybe that's why I feel sort of, I don't know, betrayed? It feels wrong that she's the only one of his grandchildren to be left out of his will, apparently because he doesn't consider her a real grandchild. Intellectually, I can accept that he's technically correct, but it feels wrong. She is my daughter. Am I wrong though? Am I just being entitled and unreasonable here? Am I the asshole? Update 1. It really put a lot of things into perspective and it confirmed to me that I needed to say something. Some people seem surprised at the way I let my daughter's bio parents off the hook, so to speak. The main reason I've never tried to go after my ex or her affair partner for child support is that my daughter is more important than money. I'm not struggling at all, and I have the support I need. More importantly though, I have my daughter. Even though the affair partner didn't apparently want anything to do with her, my lawyer did mention way back in the day that either he or my wife, being her biological parents, could have a strong case for seeking custody. I know I'm biased, but her bio dad seems like a huge asshole, and I know he doesn't care about her. I wouldn't put it past him to try to get custody just to duck out of paying child support though, if his hand was forced. And the idea of her having to go stay with him is just something I don't even want to think about. Kind of the same thing when her mom got out of prison. She seemed like she was very quick to go shack up with her new guy, and she seemed willing to let the matter lie, so I did the same. The fact that neither of them tried to get her, or, in my ex's case, the way she hasn't even bothered to keep much contact with our son either tells me more than everything I need to know about the kind of parents they would be. They only seem interested in their pre-existing/new families respectively. I wouldn't want to try to back them into trying to take custody. With my daughter being 13, it's possible that we've sort of run out the clock on that matter, but it's still not drama we need or a risk worth taking. In better and more important news though, I talked with my dad. I met with my father for lunch, which was easy enough, as he's around most days and we could sync up some time. I mentioned that I wanted to talk about my daughter not being in his will, and I told him that even if it meant dividing what was being left to me or my other kids, I felt it was really important for her to be included. I also mentioned, as I felt, and as a lot of people pointed out, that it would be devastating for her to find out that she'd been excluded after his death. My father agreed that that was a really good point, and he said that she is a lovely girl, that he does love her, and that he wouldn't want to add extra pain or bitterness to her life, especially at such a time. Also, it had gotten around to him that I'd been sort of polling my siblings a little bit, and I think my mom talked to him some, and he said, "This is obviously very important to you. You're my son. I can just change it. It's not so much money anyway." And he was right. The amounts of money being left to individual grandchildren aren't massive, but the gesture and the thought are what's most meaningful. Mostly everything is going to my mom and or us as kids anyway. Really, there was no reason for me to expect him to have been stubborn or hard-hearted about any of this. It was just something that we needed to talk about. My father reiterated that everyone loves my daughter and that she'll always be family and always have a home. He has a gold bracelet that he has worn somewhat occasionally over the years, and he mentioned that my daughter thought it was pretty. When she was very little, she noticed it on his wrist and said that jewelry was for girls. He laughed and explained to her that sometimes boys wear jewelry too. She thought it was nice and he let her try it on even though it was way too big for her wrist. She was a little toddler then. I didn't know about that moment between them, and I thought it was really sweet that he remembered. He said that he was going to leave her the bracelet and a note and that as far as money goes she'd get the same share as the rest of my kids. So we had a nice lunch and we both felt better for it. Story 2. Husband belittles our son's passion for cooking and criticizes him for not participating in masculine activities, causing a rift. I, 42F, have 3 sons: Jamie, 16M, Matt, 12M, and Paul, 10M, with my husband Charlie, 45M. My middle son Matt is a little different from his brothers. His brothers like things that are typically meant for men like sports, gadgets, video games and so on. But Matt is different. He is not a big sports fan. He likes reading and painting. He doesn't mind doing things that are typically not for boys. Another thing about him is that he is passionate about food. He has been like this since he was 6. He would often come to the kitchen and see me cook and oftentimes offer to help. Well, I don't let him do heavy things like cutting or standing too close to the fire, but he would be a helping hand. I call him Ramsay Jr., after Gordon Ramsay. Honestly, I like this arrangement because while I am doing all of the cooking my other boys are in their room. My husband on the other hand is not impressed by Matt. He is a proud father of 3 sons and often like to do stuffs with them like teaching them how to play baseball, playing video games, wrestling, watching sports. But Matt is not interested in any of those things. He has said over and over again that those typical things they do doesn't interest him. My husband would still force him to do it because he thinks it is more important for him to do things that are more masculine with his brother because it creates a bond. I have tried several times to convince my husband that he'll let Matt go and let him do his thing. We eventually reached to a compromise that Matt will do sports and other stuff with them once a week so that he is in touch with his brothers, and rest of the time he would do his own activities that he likes. My husband also doesn't like that Matt would rather stay in the kitchen with me being my helping hand rather than with him and my other boys. He sometimes tries to criticize him by saying, he shouldn't be doing girly things or he will not get any girls in the future or he will be made fun of. The incident happened yesterday. I was in the kitchen preparing for lunch. My husband and sons were outside playing football. Paul and Jamie called Matt to come play with them, but Matt was not interested. I told him he should go play with his brothers now while I do the meal prep and he can come back during the cooking process. Matt agreed. But he came to the kitchen after 10 minutes and started helping me. My husband was with the boys too. He called Matt several times but Matt didn't budge. I can see it irritated him. After the lunch, my husband was pissed and told me what I am doing to Matt is going to harm him in the future. I told him how is forcing him to do things he doesn't like would help him. He wasn't listening and kept saying things like he needs to be a man and stop doing girly things. And the way I'm encouraging him cook and bake things like grandma, he would get bullied in school and he doesn't want a son who is a sissy. I was shocked. I told him he needs to get his head out of his ass because cooking is gender neutral. There is nothing wrong with Matt wanting to cook. My husband got mad and told me I am ruining my son's future. He doesn't want him to grow up weak and fragile, and making him do girly things will make it worse. He needs to learn how to be a man like his dad and learn how to provide rather than take on feminine roles. And just because I couldn't get a daughter I should stop turning my son into a girl. This turned into a huge fight between him and me, and now he is not talking to me. Matt is sad because he thinks he is the reason why his dad and I fought. I had to assure him that it was not his fault at all. So Reddit, Ida? Or should I just have told Matt to play with his brother and not come into the kitchen until the lunch is served? Edit, I have read the comments. I just want to clear out any confusion. My other boys Jamie and Paul do have a good relationship with Matt. Yes, they are different and would rather stay in their rooms and do their own thing, but none of them have ever bullied Matt or made fun of him for liking things differently. Also, I am a homemaker for now, but my husband has helped me with some chores like getting kids ready for school, driving them to school and other extra curriculum, folding the laundry, taking care of the lawn. So, it's not that I am totally helpless. The kitchen duty is 100% mine because my husband doesn't know or like to cook. NTA. Your husband is a peanut brain. Learning cooking is not shameful and is basic skill. In Japan they learn cooking in primary or junior high school. Is Matt helping you because he enjoys cooking or because he doesn't want to let you in charge of cooking, and probably cleaning, alone? Cooking is a useful skill to become independent. All your kids and husband should learn the basics. Not everyone likes sports or driving cars or fishing. Are all famous cooks gay or sissy? Is Gordon Ramsay a sissy? Lamau, your husband has some serious insecurity. Maybe he should go to therapy. Update 1. My husband, Charlie, was not letting it go. He insists Matt is wrong for wanting to cook with me. The argument between me and him never truly settled. So, few days ago, he decided to call his dad. He thought since his dad was in the military he would teach Matt some lesson. So, my Phil came to our house. We chatted and talked. Charlie brought up the issue with Matt. He just talked about everything starting from his passion for cooking and not being interested in other masculine stuff. Phil was quiet and thought about it. Matt looked scared because Phil looks like a scary guy. Phil told the kids to go to their room because he wants to have a chat with hubby and I after we were alone. I was expecting Phil blame me, but instead he blamed my husband. He said he is really embarrassed of my husband for having such backward thinking. He knows that when Phil was in the military he had to do all his chores and sometimes have to cook. He just loaded on my husband that he is teaching the wrong lesson to Matt. T-hat cooking is a good skill and it will help in real life. Watching sports and video games will not teach him anything valuable. There is more. I cannot write all of it, but my husband looked really defeated. He tried to argue that Matt needs to do tough things, but Phil shut that down by saying he has the nerve to say cooking is easy when he probably can't boil water. Honestly, it was funny to watch my husband being berated by his dad like a kid. Phil then called the boys to the room and told us to give them privacy. We were outside. I was looking at my boys through the slit of the door. Matt looks relaxed, but the heads of Jamie and Paul was down. Long story short, Phil told my boy to not bother Matt anymore. He also instructed that my boys help me in the kitchen once a week to learn how to manage home. He also told Matt to not be scared and do whatever he likes. I am glad Charlie brought him to our house even if his plans backfired. I thought after Phil left there will be peace. My husband would be normal and understand, but he was sulking and moping around. I asked him continuously what happened. He didn't answer at first. But then after a lot of pushing and pestering he did. He said that the reason why he didn't want Matt to do feminine things is because he, my husband, was bullied for that when he was in school. I knew he had to deal with bullies, but he never told me why he was bullied. This is my first time hearing this story. He said when he was about Matt's age he would also be in the kitchen with his mom because he liked watching her cook. And they lived in a joint family, so his uncles and aunts would also live in the house, like in Kanto. He would often get bullied by his cousins because he spent more time in the kitchen. He also admitted that he had an interest in knitting but had to stop because he once heard his then crush say that it makes him gay. So he also got bullied for knitting. I was angry at him, but now I just pity him. I had to explain the situation to him that we do not live in the past and a lot of things have changed. And that he shouldn't have to give up what he likes because people are stupid around him. There was a lot of conversation about past and present and also about him being comfortable with this situation as a whole. He told me that he will not pressure Matt anymore. He realized that in order for his kid not to get bullied, he became his own kid's bully. Things are fine now. Today all of the boys, including my husband, helped me in the kitchen. For the first time I felt a little relieved by it. Also to those people who told me to leave my husband, why? He is a good guy. I know he holds some backward views but he is nice and caring. I understand he has insecurities but they are not worth having a divorce. Things are fine now and if it goes bad I know what to do. I don't know if he likes knitting now or not but we'll ask him. He is still in his peak masculine phase. Baby steps. Update 2. It is not a happy update because my husband and I are going through a divorce. After my last update everything was fine until my husband started acting weird and out of character. I will not go into details that much but he was having an affair with someone he met online. So, apparently, my husband has been using online forums even Reddit to vent his frustration about Matt and he feels he has failed as a father and me not supporting his decision is emasculating him. That is when he found his mistress, 35F, who poisoned his ears that I am not a good wife because I should obey my husband. She and my husband badmouthed me and she even had some questionable words for my son Matt as well. So, we have been fighting a lot about this. He blames me because none of this would have happened if I just respected his authority as the man of the house and that mistress understands him and knows when to shut up. I still cannot believe he will turn his back on us just because my son liked cooking. This is not the man I married. I sometimes feel sad because I have been struggling with depression for a long time. My sons are pretty depressed too. I took them to therapy. Especially Matt because he believes we are divorcing because of him. He took it hard. He even told me he will stop cooking if that means his dad will stay with us. My other sons are also very sad too but so far they have been understanding. My Phil is 100% on my side. He has been helping me with a lawyer and pretty much disowned my husband for his behavior towards me and my kids. That's been my life. I am struggling a lot with the financial situations. I did get a job but it is that high in pay. My STBX has moved in with his mistress. I just hope we will see good days soon.